Hey, I want to talk about religion and atheism and my journey toward atheism, I guess. Uh, I've become this kind of outspoken non believer, and it's not an identity that I strived for per se, but I've come to it in the last couple of years, and I want to kind of unpack it. Uh, I started with an agnostic background. I mean, I was born agnostic and atheist, as we all are technically, without knowledge and without belief. Um, there's this like idea of new atheism, um, championed by Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins and the late Christopher Hitchens and some others. And I've been reading these books by them and watching their YouTube clips and just kind of like living in this headspace for a while. And it's definitely been forming my outlook on the world. And I want to take a step back from that because I'll admit, like, I can be abrasive about this and annoying, and I don't mean to be like this, you know, aggressive atheist dude online. But I guess it's kind of happened as a result of certain priorities. Like, atheism is not my actual identity. Like, it's just a non-identity, really. But it's come to be this container that fits a lot of what I do stand for, like critical thinking primarily, and reason and rationality. And these are the things that I stand for now. And it's a political identity in the face of real global issues in America with Christianity and around the world with Islam and militant Islam, which we're calling terrorism and this war on terror. I mean, these are real things, and I think that as progressives and, young, perhaps activists, we kind of owe it to ourselves to face this honestly. I think we hide too much behind this kind of celebration of multiculturalism. And I mean, look, I travel. I like experiencing other cultures. I don't want to knock that. I'm not saying that Western culture is the only way to go. There's plenty of room for critique, definitely. But I don't think that we have to honor and recognize bad ideas simply because they're of another culture. And I think that's what we're doing a lot. For instance, with Islam, it's a belief system that is quite dangerous for many people that we sympathize with. Homosexuals, women, thinkers, let's get into this. This is what Christopher Hitchens gets into, and Sam Harris for sure as well. And I also read this other book, a work of fiction by Michel Houellebecq, the French novelist, called Submission, which is what the word Islam means. Submission to Allah and the Quran. Now, this is this book is, it's a work of fiction. It proposes a world where Islam takes over Europe. And maybe it does put me in this kind of alarmist headspace. And I gotta check myself because I don't want to be there. I don't want to be paranoid. I don't want to be, profiling people in my mind. Like, this is not a healthy state of being, and I recognize that. And I know that, like, most Muslims are good people. Most people are good people, period. I believe that. But I do think that good people can be led wildly astray by dogma. I mean, history shows that many times over. And I think that it's worth seeing and studying why certain things are happening around the world. We have the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or Levant, and they're claiming all these crazy murders, and it's terrorizing, and it terrorizes me. Like, I actually think, like, do I want to visit Paris? It might be dangerous. Like, I hate that I think that, and that it's like, it comes through my mind, It's no way to live. Going into a concert and thinking back to those attacks, for instance. But ISIS and Boko Haram, who's like kidnapping kids and militarizing them, and, you know, Hezbollah and Al Qaeda. Like, these groups are extreme in their views of their faith. I mean, they're following the Quran to the T. They're fundamentalist believers, you know, and when we use this word fundamentalist, that's what we're really talking about: belief. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to believe something because it leads to actions. I mean, I think that we like to say that, oh, a suicide bomber is just crazy. They're crazy people, you know, it happens. And we just kind of excuse it like that, you know. But they tell us why they're doing it. They say explicitly that they believe in the word of Allah, that they are going to eternal paradise, that martyrdom and the killing of non-believers, infidels, is a direct path to paradise, and they're 72 virgins for some reason. This is a real belief that motivates real people, and this needs to be understood. And I think that there's this whole school of thought that it's somehow the Western world's fault. Like, it's kind of like this Noam Chomsky hypothesis, and it's not wrong. I mean, it's true that like American foreign policy is kind of fucked, you know, and it kind of does lead to some bad things. But you can't, I think it's, okay, look, if you want to just reduce it to, well, you know, if we take out a dictator in a volatile area, we're bound to create terrorists. So it's our fault that we did that. It's not wrong, but I think we have to recognize what actually motivates certain, I mean, I'm trying to like be delicate here because I'm afraid to talk about this direct issue of extreme Muslims and Islam in general. It's a political ideology, and they're politicizing it. It's not simply like this religion of a spiritual identity. It's much more than that, and I feel like we're failing to see that. And that's the thesis of all these new atheists, is to recognize belief systems are dangerous. When you actually believe something, you're capable of extreme danger and violence. And, you know, this was kind of like Bill Maher's point in Religious as well. It's like when you have people looking to these texts, these ancient, outdated books that say that the end times are coming, and that, you know, this like strip of land in the desert symbolizes all this stuff, and that like if these people are there, then Jesus will come back, which is why like American Christians support Israel, because they want Israelis to hold that land for Jesus to return, for fuck's sake. And people want to go to war over this, and they can go to war over this because it suits their beliefs that the end is near, because God says so. I mean, this is dangerous. So I don't want to just back off and say, oh, well, if that's what your belief is, I mean, that's personal. It's not personal. It's political. And that's what I'm attacking whenever I'm posting something on Facebook about this, because we are in a political world. This is our reality. And this is a system that does want to spread and infiltrate the world. I mean, this is what jihad is. This is what a caliphate is. And look, I don't want to be alarmist. I mean, reading Submission, it just put me again in that headspace. But my point isn't to say like this must be destroyed by any means necessary. Look out, they're coming for us, whatever. I'm not so fearful of that. I do believe in progress, and I think that, you know, every generation is a little more savvy to this shit, the same way that Christianity and Judaism have been reformed through secular advances in science. I think that that's possible with Islam. It hasn't happened yet, and I think we should notice that a large swath of the planet is still kind of operating in this regressive way, you know? And I think that is threatening somehow. I think it's something to pay attention to and to recognize and to combat, at least through education, you know, and technology. And love for sure. That should motivate us. But I guess in terms of just religion itself, I suppose I'm willing to attack it because I don't automatically value tradition for the sake of tradition. I don't automatically value authority and authoritarianism. I think it sucks. I don't want to be told how to live and what to do. And I think it's a tragedy that our spiritual lives are entwined in religion. Because I think that's what religion aims to do, right? That was its sole purpose originally, is to like tap into this sort of transcendence that is a real thing. Definitely. I mean, I will definitely admit that there's a truth to what every religion aims to explain and articulate. And I'm into that, like I meditate and do drugs and fall in love. And I think that it's always possible to achieve this higher plane of understanding. I mean, Buddhism really aims to do this specifically. I think it's probably the best organized religion in that sense. Spiritual world exists, and I commend everybody for exploring that, but I don't think it exists in mass. I don't think it exists anymore in organized religion. I think organized religion poisons it. I think it corrupts it. And Christianity, for sure, has a whole history of doing fucked up shit, Sam Harris goes, in his book, The End of Faith, through all of this, the Crusades and the Inquisition, and the Catholic Church's continued fight against birth control, saying you can't use condoms in Africa where AIDS is running rampant. I mean, it's insane. It's dangerous. It hurts people, all because of an agenda that religion has, which is about power structures. Catholic Church wants numbers. They want you to procreate. They want clergymen, so they're going to speak against homosexuality because it's that closet that men stay in that drives them into the clergy. And then they do fucked up shit because sexuality is a real thing. It's a human, earthly thing. It's not in heaven. It's not in the afterlife. You don't go there to get it. You have it here. And religion, the Abrahamic religions specifically, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, are all about some sort of repression of joy. And it's heartbreaking, It sucks. And it sucks to read news of honor killings in Islamic states, not ISIS, but actual countries that found their constitution around Islam, where you are condoning the killing of a 12-year-old girl for being raped because that's how you honor your family. It's not love, it's sick. And I think it's okay for us to recognize that it's sick, that our values might have evolved more. I think that's a real thing. I don't think we need to use this moral relativism to say, well, that's their culture. I mean, in Afghanistan or in Saudi Arabia or in, the Islamic Republic of Mauritania in Africa, if they believe this stuff, that's their culture. Let them do it. No. Why would we stand for that? And why do we want to excuse it as just a few bad apples? This is all coming from a belief system written down in a real book. Now, there's a lot of bad shit written in all these books, and it's nice that Christianity has been reformed and that, Christians aren't stoning women for divorce, which it says to do. We're not freaking out about wearing mixed fabric, even though Leviticus says that right next to shellfish, right next to laying with a man if you're a man. It's this picking and choosing, I think it's good that we're not taking it all because that's obviously led to terrible atrocities. But why are we taking any of it? Why are we letting Christians say anything on a political level with the Bible as their source? The Bible is bullshit. The Bible is not moral. It is a terrible set of principles to live by. We've outgrown it. We've evolved. And I think that, I mean, this is Sam Harris's point, is that the realm of science does have something to say in regard to the spiritual world. Like, we know that being kind and following the golden rule makes the world better. We have proof of that. We all have our own understanding of like love being a strong force, and that, overcoming hate and jealousy and these sort of things is good for us, So, I mean, this is what I'm standing for as a secular person. That's what America was founded on, to be a secular nation without these kind of religious poisonous doctrines. So I guess that's my point in reading these books and exploring this topic and reading the news of horrible atrocities happening throughout, Iran and even Palestine. Like, we have such an urge to, like, in America, to like root for the underdog, Palestine. Palestine does a lot of bad stuff. I mean, yeah, it sucks that they have no land and that Israel has kind of like taken over their land. I mean, that's fucked up. But it's not like Palestinians that follow the Quran strictly are good. I'm sorry to say that. I do feel bad. It's like, is this like reactionary feeling I have as like a good leftist, like Ben Affleck. Like, it feels bad to call out a people. And I don't want to call out any person, because I certainly can't name a radical Muslim. I don't know any. Most people that I know that practice any religion are definitely good. But anyone that is susceptible to following this belief system is susceptible to doing evil shit. I mean, child body shields, human shields, that's a real thing. Arming women with bombs to walk into markets and blow themselves up because these people are not believing the exact thing that you believe. I mean, I just think we need to face that, and we need to think critically about why we believe things. Why do I think it's acceptable for a woman in my culture to wear whatever she wants? Why am I not blaming her somehow for my arousal? Well, she's an autonomous person. She has her own wishes and, mental machinations. She can do what she wants. I have to take it upon myself in a society to respect that and to not be an aggressive asshole about it. And I think we all in the West come to this conclusion together. We know that it's like better for equality to prevail. So why are we standing for inequality around the world? And it's really bad. It's really, really bad if you look around, like in the States, we are so outraged by the slightest discretion or discrimination against anybody. And yet we tolerate it somehow around the world. I think this is bad. This is a bad thing to tolerate. So I encourage everybody to own up to your non-belief. Because look, you might have been raised a certain way, but you don't believe. Hubble telescopes, the Hubble telescope, space exploration. There's nothing out there but space. Like, we understand this. You can use this word God to describe other things. But we are beyond these books of the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran, Book of Mormon. All these books are useless to us, completely useless. And I think the sooner we face that as a society, the better, because they have no place in political discourse and public discourse. So let's own up to that. Let's own up to our own non-belief. Let's stand up for reason in these kind of global discussions. And let's all definitely also foster a spiritual life in ourselves and our friend groups, because that is important. And I don't mean to take that away. I think it's important to congregate. I think it's important to talk about right and wrong together. But the Bible doesn't help at all. It's not a good starting place. So ignore that. Keep gathering for, Passover. Don't eat pork if you don't want to, I guess. But let's stop doing things in the name of religion, because it does us no good to do that. That's it.